Hello and welcome to Political Voice. I am Moses Humphrey. Now, the police command in Lagos, in Kano, I beg your pardon, in Kano State has announced a ban on all street protest in the northwestern state as the Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal seeks for the adoption of written addresses. Now, the Commissioner of Police in the state, Hussaini Gumel, made the announcement at the state headquarters on Monday. According to him, intelligence reports reveal that both the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, and the All Progressives Congress, APC, are mobilizing for street protest against the tribunal seated. The situation in Kano has been brewing for some time now, and the police obviously isn't willing to leave anything to chance. Oh well. I have with me in the studio Moses Orishajalomi Adebayo. Good to have you with us.
Always a pleasure being here, and most grateful to broach issues that bother our national growth.
All right, so let's look at Kano State now. Don't protest. That's what the police is saying, for fear that there might be a breakdown of law and order. Why is Kano particularly showing signs of trouble?
Well, straight away, whatever starts in Kano transcends Kano. There are antecedents. The Kano riot of 1953 still come to mind. The December 1988 Kano riot that was started by my Oseni group, which spread over the entire north, and on and on. So there is this ominous antecedent about riots or even protests, if we want to downplay it now, starting in Kano. It snowballs. It becomes something that they possibly can't control. A Frankenstein monster that possibly had a good intention when you were creating it, but goes beyond control. Hence, the police chief there, the security guards there, they understand the peculiarity of that cosmopolitan city, Kano. The top two most populous states in Nigeria, Kano, Lagos, Kano, depends on how you see it. So they can't afford to take chances. The crisis brewing or looming, that is as a result of APC and NNPP, the current party that produced the governor, there has not been any kind of love lost between them. And at the center of it all is the political godfather, the man that has a lot of say in Kano State, Rabiu Kwakwanso. Kwakwanso was in APC, now created his own party, and he won with his candidate, putting over 1 million. But APC went to court, the right thing to do. They took the legal route, and it's been on. The governor himself, the current governor, has not covered himself in much glory, because it was a case of he got in and he was riding on the pool of a personal vendetta. He has demolished, even in less than 3 months, what a government has not done in 4 years. And you begin to perceive, is this man out here to discredit people? And he's not careful to say that he's doing this because he's getting back at people. So these are the factors that have aggregated to ensure that whatever is coming from the tribunal must be well taken care of. Otherwise, what should be a peaceful, harmless protest may end up spiraling into a riot. And as I've said, the antecedent when it comes to riots in Kano is never friendly, always bloodbath. We don't want that now. We don't ever want that again. So for me, it's only apt that the police chief and every parastatal that has to be security in Kano, they should be on the alert. They should be on the guard. They must not allow anything that looks like danger, because at the end of the day, some of these top men, the people that are occupying offices, will not be affected. It's the unsuspecting, the innocent civilian on the street that will be affected. So we can't afford to let this carnage or a potential carnage be.
All right. Well, truly, security agencies are on alert. They are on alert, trying to, prevent a breakdown of law and order. Nobody wants to see that, especially at this time. But one would say, the school of thought would say, why is it so hot? Why are they so passionate about this? Could it be because NNPP came on board and decided, to sweep off, the APC and the PPDP, to win the governorship seat? Could this be the reason? Why exactly is this?
The cosmopolitan nature of Kano tells it all. It's a city, yes, in the northern region, but it's not made entirely of people of northern extract. It has virtually all, like Lagos, all ethnic groups, all backgrounds, all shades of people are converged. They live there and they have says. Many of them have lived there for hundreds of years. They are stakeholders, viable, legitimate stakeholders. They have many things to do with Kano. Some can even call Kano their home. So it's a case where anything that goes wrong will not only affect them mildly, but will affect them on a larger scale. And to prevent this, they will always be passionate to defend, to proact instead of react. People have, as I've said, stakeholders in terms of business, even politically, because Kano is known to have a room for anyone to operate. Gamidi that left had some advisors from other parts of the country. Like Kaduna, I think 1 or 2 commissioners in the past under Kwakwanso were Yorubas, were Igbos. So it tells you of the very nature of Kano. Kano is not meant for just a set of people. No, it is a rainbow city where everyone thrives. And that is why it's one of the most important cities in Nigeria. You can't afford to do, as I said, nothing starts in Kano and stops there. It extends, it transcends, it goes beyond, such that whatever is brewing right now must not be taken lightly. Must not be taken, going by what they've done in the past. And as history will always guide us, it's only natural that they ensure that they nip this in the bud. They nip this in the bud because the intelligence chiefs, I'm sure they are not flippant. They know what they've heard. They've heard some things. They put 1 or 2 together to ensure that, oh, this is a city where passion fly, emotions are always raw. People want to vent their opinion, vent their anger and emotion, whatever I call it now. So they know what to do, and that's why they are ensuring that whatever comes from the tribunal, whether it pays a party or does not, they will have to stem whatever can spiral from such a judgment.
All right then, we'll take a break. When we come back from this break, we'll continue the program. All right, welcome back. It's still Political Voice on VOP TV. Now we have joining us in the studio CP Chooks, the one who is former Commissioner of Police for your state. Good to have you with us in the studio.
Good to have you too, and good day to viewers.
All right, so we're looking at the call for no protest in Kano State as a result of the tribunal cases right now. Now, we know that Kano State has some big wigs, big names. We have Rabiu
Kwankwaso.
Yes, he's there, and we also have Umaru Ganduje, and we have some other big names there in Kano. Is this an ego thing?
I think it's beyond that.
Beyond that?
It's beyond the ego thing. It is manifest in areas of interests of some other upcoming politicians as well as the people. I strongly think that even in Kano too, they are politically aware. They have their mode of thinking and mode of following the trends. So it's not just question of sheepishly following the so-called political overlords or masters. It is question of their interests, and their interest centers more on issue of welfare for the masses and the generality of people, vis-a-vis the hardship Nigerians are going through.
Okay, so the interest in providing welfare,
yes,
and the current situation in the country, how does this translate to chaos or a breakdown of law and order if the judicial proceeding goes one way as against the other?
You see, the people had gone through a lot, especially this issue of subsidy removal, and then followed by floating of the naira to find its level with a view to match the first and second tier foreign exchange markets. It has galvanized the inflationary level and trend that everybody is now yearning for justice and fairness, especially on the part of the judiciary. And from what I'm seeing now, it has transcended beyond tribe, religion, and possibly language. And like you took a reference point of Kano. Kano is a mixed grill, sort of. There are Igbos, there are Yorubas, there are minorities, and even Hausa Fulanis. And in fact, it should be seen as the second largest commercial center in the country after Lagos, if not even on the same level with Lagos. For anything to disturb the peace and tranquility in Kano will be very, very adverse and will affect seriously the entirety of the nation. So whatever it is, the good thing is for the judiciary to read the handwriting on the wall and be sure that at the end of the day they dispense justice, because that's the only thing that can assuage agitation, frustration, and the tendency to move out to protest. And the danger in protest is that some who may lead the protests may have very good intention to protest against the wrongdoing. At the same time, there are those who are troubleshooters mixed with miscreants, brigands, and all sorts of shady characters. If it is not managed properly, they will hijack. And when they hijack, that is what will cause total breakdown of law and order. And this is not the time for such a negative development to come up or rear its head.
We've talked. We hear a lot about hijacking protests in this part of the world. It's been a conversation that has been ongoing for some time now. Is there nothing that can be done? Because truly, the right to protest is there in the Constitution.
Very democratic.
If people feel like this decision is against what we believe it should be, or if something is affecting the people and they want to make their grievances known to the government and the international community as well, they have a right to protest. But as it is now, we are seeing situations where government is, usually through the executive arm, saying, look, you cannot protest due to one reason or the other. Most of it being that so the protest will not be hijacked and we will not see a breakdown of law and order. Can there be a situation in which if people decide to protest peacefully, they will have the protection of the police to ensure that things are not taken out of context, to ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order? Can we see that?
Let me still see this from a historical perspective. When in 1953, Anthony Nahoro moved the motion for independence that okay, by 1956 Nigeria should be independent. The delegates from the north, because then the federal house was in Lagos, they felt the region was not ready, so they opined against it. They didn't buy into it. They felt independence should be as soon as practicable. That was the line, the point line, it's another point line by the then leader, Samadu Bello, the revered leader of the North, almost forever. Okay, what happened after the session? The northern delegates left the house. They were pelted with water and all manner by people in Lagos. So they went back to Kano, Kaduna, back to the north. Their own followers there didn't take it lightly. Or when the Akintolas and the like went to Kano to further amplify the fact that Nigeria should be independent in 3 years, it started on a friendly note. But some aggrieved members who had been riled by their leaders started pelting them to in return as in a kind of revenge. Before long, native authority, they called them Kano Native Police Authority. That was the name given to them, and even some army officers. They tried to stem it at that point. But what happened was that some politicians, some disgruntled ones, were fueling some of these things even behind the scenes. What was to be a protest? What was to be just, oh, you threw pure water at our leaders in Lagos, you did that. Now snowballed from just what should easily have been handled to something very big. Take December 1988, Maitesani riot, because that one was a full-blown riot that led to over 4,000 lives being lost. In 1953, just about 46 lives were lost. Now, what I'm saying is that Kano is not known for
Peaceful.
something peaceful in that sense. Hence, the security guards must be very, very ready. If you go by the antecedent, it only tells you that you can predict what possibly will happen. Because this is not a case that should be taken mildly. APC, the losing party, via Ganduje, felt they were rigged out. AMPP is telling the world that with Kwakwanso in our camp, we deserve the victory. And we can't deny the fact that Kwakwanso is a juggernaut over there. He has a lot of say there. I mean, for Kwakwanso to line behind you or before you, you know that you are likely going to get something for yourself. So the tribunal, as much as I wouldn't want to put pressure on the judiciary, they have their factors. They consider their factors to judge. Because sometimes what we have flying around in the as opinion from people may not necessarily be what the judiciary. They don't go by emotions. We only express our sentiments. We express our reservations, our whatever we call it now. But they go by the facts. They are not moved by, oh, they said this, they said that. If what is on ground is controverted by what people think, they go by the facts. So let both parties involved and the appendages. Well, I learned that APC is trying to gather some to get some other parties to come behind them. Same for AMPP and so NMPP. So it tells you that it's not even going to be a major fight again between the two of them, but rather they have their supporters. What is going to happen is this: Kano is known for volatility. They can't afford to go that way. Secondly, let the judiciary not be put under undue pressure. They will do their job. They do their onions. Oh yes, over time they not cover themselves in glory. I'm talking about the judiciary because It's even alleged that some judges have two judgments in their pockets, one for the highest bidder and one for whatever, you know, all manner of things flying around. And when you see some lawyers in their conferences behaving like brigands, you begin to imagine, are these the learned ones? But that aside, whatever is going to happen in Kano days from now should ensure that they proact. Let every paraphernalia of police, security, whatever they have to offer to stem whatever will come afterwards, let them put them in place. We can't afford any bloodbath. No, not at all.
Not at all, indeed. Now, CP, talking about influencing the judiciary, we know that just before, sometime last week, we had that signboards, all eyes on the judiciary, was asked to be brought down as it might influence the decision of the judiciary. Now, don't you think the talk of a protest and the talk of a likely breakdown of law and order due to judgments from the judiciary, isn't that some sort of subtle gagging of the judiciary?
I don't see it so. Reason being that, just like Moses said, the judiciary is not moved by sentiments, and they are not moved by emotions or feelings. They're moved by the rule of the law and facts on ground, depending on the quality and quantity of evidence that has been adduced before them. And having said that, just like he also touched, that there is this allegation that they have two judgments in their pocket. That's a wide allegation. One for the highest bidder, then the other one is on principles of fairness and justice.
But what does that say to trust, people's trust in the judiciary?
Well, that's the reality on ground. It is unfortunate that things have degenerated to that extent. Because if you had listened to Olisa Abakoba SAN, the past president of Nigeria Bar Association and human rights activists, he said one thing in one interview he granted some time ago, that in his 45 years of practice as a legal practitioner and as a senior advocate of Nigeria, that what he's seeing coming out from the Supreme Court is ridiculous and worrisome. A situation where two prominent politicians, the former Senate President and the present Senate President, were in Ego Square participating in presidential primary, not for senatorial. They never went for senatorial primary. Only for Supreme Court to give them judgment that they are the flag bearers for Senate. And that is how we see two of them in the National Assembly today. And the former, stepped aside based on their political power sharing formula, while they later became the Senate President. What sort of judgment is that? He made a lot of allegations that has created worries in the minds of Nigerians. So that billboard watch on judiciary is a way of sensitizing the people that all is not well in the judiciary. Is now, well, let us hope that they will be guided by conscience and try as much as they can to avoid any primordial influence, based on whatever consideration, to take decision that will boil or hit polity of Nigeria.
Well, you do know that in Nigeria, it's become difficult to win the presidency without winning Kano, which means that there seems to be more than meets the eyes there. So where do you see this going eventually, CP?
You know what?
Come in.
There are some things or some issues that are more of myth than reality. We've built this political myth over time that except a particular region or zone is won. I do not play down that some regions, some states are very important. But when we have the table being upturned sometime, we now start thinking, what happened? politics is always a game of numbers. Yes, you don't rule out genealogy, or my grandfather voted Tory, my grandmother voted Labour, and like that. There are some cultural heritages when it comes to politics. This is how we've been voting. I remember in the 60s, when I think the Republicans, they fielded a very unpopular candidate at the expense of who the party members wanted, Barry Goldwater. And you know what Republicans did that year? They didn't go out to vote. And that was how Democrats coasted them to victory. They felt, we don't want this man. This is not the one. This is who should represent us as the Republicans. Rather, instead of giving our votes to the Democrats, they left it void, and that was how Democrats coasted the victory. What am I saying here? We have patterns of voting, no doubt about that. But sometimes these patterns may not always be everlasting. That they cannot be changed. It's mythical. It can always be that behind the veil, something is growling, something is barking, something is what do you call now? Some of the sound made by a dog. Only for you to open through the curtain, I see a rat there. Normally you think, whatever is growling, whatever is barking, whatever is howling must be a dog. But you get the surprise of your life. You open through the curtains and you see, it's a rabbit. So you expect that sometime Kano, the legendary Kano, Lagos, Rivers, as they over time prove to be political platform for eventual winners, sometime there is always going to be room for some surprises. So if that happens now, heaven should not fall. Heaven should not fall. That is incongruous that a party won governorship, another party won presidency. I don't think there's anything out of place here. No, I don't think so. So we should not boil over this. Let's be true to the country, because right now everywhere stands. Going by what the CP said, the billboard meant so many things. Oh yes, all eyes on the judiciary. You see that if it favors, let me mention him, if it favors Peter Obi, you think Tinubu fans, supporters will take it lightly? Or if it favors Tinubu or Atiku? So it is just a divided opinion. What I just say is that please, let's refrain from putting undue pressure on the judiciary. Let them do what they should do. They have all their facts. Once the quantity and quality of evidence is enough to win you their verdict, so be it. But that our sentiments now get disappointed. We now say, but the judgment should have gone this way. They don't think the way we think. They don't go by just mere thinking, mere emotions. Oh, I don't like this person's view. No. So we should refrain from doing that. And the media should not serve as platform to ventilate such opinions.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Moses Adebayo. CP,
yes.
Let's get your view on this now.
Now, just like Moses said, the level of maturity expected of the people is on the high side these days. And I believe that they will also leverage on that in controlling their followers. What I'm saying in essence is that emphasis should be on people should try to control their emotions and not just move into the streets to do protests, because the spiral effect is usually unpredictable. And you also come to realize that that era where they used to base on bandwagon effect, that is to draw a conclusion that since the party at the center are in charge of all the paraphernalias of security and all that, that is the reason why, if they decide or that they are taking a particular state, it is going to work that way. That era has come and gone, and we know the implications of what happened in Second Republic during the UPN, MPN thing. That was what caused the military interregnum of 31st of December, 1983. This bandwagon effect thing. So if the ruling party at the center think that the same thing will work out for them in a place like Kano, they are cutting for serious trouble. Very, very serious trouble. So it is better that everybody sits back and minimize the influence or pressure they will put on the judiciary, so that at the end of the day, the judiciary should come out with what the quantum of evidence, credible evidence before them, has impacted in the judgment they are going to give. And at the same time, just like Moses Adebayo said, the issue of, you know, entering to do any protests will be counterproductive. Counterproductive in the sense that it is going to create a very big problem for this growing democracy we have presently.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Moses Adebayo and CP Chooks. Well, now, let's go on to our second topic. Now, we do have another that we'll touch on today. Now, operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency on Sunday recovered 4.8 billion naira worth of opioids in a warehouse in Lagos. They also intercepted $20 million counterfeit notes on its way to Abuja. Now, the agency made this known in a statement signed by its director, Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, and he shared on the agency's. It was shared on the agency's Facebook page. Now, the multi-billion naira worth of illicit drugs were seized at a warehouse tucked in the International Trade Fair Complex. That's Alaba International Market in Ojo area of Lagos State. It also said that the latest drug warehouse bust came on the heels of the arrest of the drug baroness, name given as Faith Ebele Wankwo, who was nabbed during the week on Wednesday, 9th August specifically, with 2,750,000 pills of Trauma King. That's Trauma King is a brand of tramadol, to 225 milligram and 250 milligram recovered from her residence. Meanwhile, 2 days before then, specifically Friday, the 19th of August, the NDLEA intercepted 20 million US dollar notes suspected to be counterfeits during a stop and search operation along Abaji Lokoja Road within the Federal Capital Territory. Now, the suspected fake money was recovered from a bus coming from Lagos, heading to Abuja, while the 53-year-old driver of the vehicle, Onyebuchi Nlededin, was arrested, and he's also helping with investigation. That is suspected to be counterfeit drugs. Now, let's look at what the NDLA is doing now. Moses, there seems to be an awakening, because almost every Monday, if you've noticed, we hear of one bust or the other. We had sometime at the beginning of the year, we heard about bust in Victoria Island, Ikoyi, Lekki, Axis. One would give it to them, really. The NDLA seems to be working. But as it is, some would say this is scratching the surface. You know, we haven't started nabbing the kingpins themselves.
Well, readily, the scriptural analogy comes to mind. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? Can anything good be done in Nigeria via Nigerians? I think yes. Like Marwa, like Dora, like Akinwumi Adesina, and some Nigerians who have distinguished themselves not only abroad, but even while they serve fatherland, within fatherland and territory. The NDLA undoubtedly has got this checkered history. They've had it good, they've had it bad, they've had it so ugly. For a body, an agency that was formed via the Decree 48 of 1989, came into existence officially on the 29th of December, that same year, 1989. It has enjoyed all manner of attention, from the very respectful one to the most ridiculous. Because sometimes some of their Caesars, some of their Ogas, their leaders, they've been indicted because they actually colluded. But let's see in the present. Marwa, Colonel Buba Marwa, now retired, or Major, I think he became a Major.
No, Brigadier General.
Brigadier General, thank you. Has always shown himself to be capable. He got there in January 2021 when President Buhari, the past president, appointed him to that role. And from the very word go, he has shown his capability, that he is ready. I don't want to play down what they do because it's only natural for some people to fight back. You know, in Nigeria, it's almost a culture that corruption will fight back. I don't know of any bigger kingpin that will be arrested if the one, not the ones that have been named so far. Possibly there are more, there are bigger fries, but the ones that have been arrested so far, it's not a pauper out there that controls 4.8 billion naira or even dollars, $20 million counterfeit. It's not a pauper, someone who has not even, who doesn't even own an account, that will control some of these very dangerous narcotics. It has to be someone that has very deep pocket and very high connected influences everywhere. Thank God the CP is here. And of course, you know, when he was in office, even outside of office, the CP knows some numbers, and when they just get like this man has started again. What does he want to say? So, so play down the fact that they've been fighting drugs, busting drugs, and making sure that Nigeria is safe. I don't think it will be fair on them. They can do more, yes, but so far they've caught themselves in glory. It reminds you of Dora's days, Dora Kunili. That woman, bless her soul, she remains an amazing to be referred to forever. As a matter of fact, she raised the benchmark of NAFDA, told her that even if anybody does anything now, you still say Dora. Maybe that's the path or the trajectory Bubabara is going. Let's give her support. Let's ensure that we work in tandem with them as Nigerians, because the effect of these drugs on Nigerians, especially our youth, it endangers our future. You need to see what transpires everywhere. Motor parks, garages, even in places that should be sacred, institution of learning, in churches. It's scary, it's alarming. So MDLA doing this, they need all our support to ensure that we are rid of all this mess, lest our future is destroyed.
All right, CP now, in our fight against drug abuse, in our fight against the trafficking of drugs, we don't seem to have done much with gateway drugs like heroin,
cocaine.
Yes, cocaine. We don't seem to have done so much. Right now, there's a focus on tramadol. There's a focus on the importation of tramadol, which is banned, of course, yes. But we have a focus on it right now. But we have allowed marijuana to, you know, be on the streets. It's peddled almost everywhere, street corners. You know, almost everyone that takes them knows where to get them once they get into an area. What would you say to security agencies letting one go and chasing after others?
In fairness to the security agencies, particularly the NDLEA, part of the problem they are going through is in terms of strength. What I mean by strength is manpower.
Manpower.
The manpower is not sufficient to cover the entire landscape. So they depend on other agencies to assist. In other words, if police are able to get information, or even the military, and nab suspects with the substances, they are expected to do the needful, whereby they will transfer to them to continue with their investigations. That is one bit. The other aspect is getting the intelligence, credible and qualitative intelligence. That's what they will use in working and busting some of those.
So you don't think they have enough of that?
They don't have enough of that from what is on ground. And then there is also this challenge, like you said, of cocaine, heroin, marijuana.
Marijuana, yeah.
They work on information available to them. If they get any information concerning areas where people who deal on cocaine or marijuana or heroin, there's no way they will.
Marijuana, which is Igbo.
Of course.
All right, it's everywhere. My point is, they don't seem to be. That's a gateway drug. Igbo is such that when you graduate from cigarette to Igbo, there's a tendency the next stop will be cocaine.
Exactly.
There's a tendency you go deeper into methane and some other things.
But there's one thing people have not followed up and they've not realized.
What?
The police, in collaboration with the NDLEA, have in the past been doing a lot in tracing the Igbo to where they are being grown, especially in the southwest part of Nigeria, around Ondo, Ekiti, Ogun, and so on and so forth, and go as much or as far as destroying those farms. These ones are not usually brought to the public notice, but from intelligence report when I was in the system that we were getting, you know, by way of situation report, CTREPs, they end up and they will video the thing and forward it across board for you to know that they are working. They work side by side. Sometimes they even join the military to identify those large areas and destroy the farms. So it's an ongoing, continuous thing. But part of the problem too is that some of those Igbo or marijuana is not only grown in Nigeria. Across the border there in Benin Republic, there are, you know, areas or soil fertile for growing them. They grow the thing and pass them through the land border. When I was CP in Oyo, we have those times, on a number of times, impounded vehicles conveying those substances, bringing them into Nigeria. And we duly had to hand them over to the NDLEA then for them to continue their investigations and possible prosecution.
All right, Moses, some would say even the police themselves go to street corners and buy the states. So how then can they make busts? Now, I'm bringing it, you know, how then can they make busts? That's on one side. We'll now look at, well, let's have your response to that first.
There's no denying what you've just said. It is palpably true that some unscrupulous members of the Nigerian police force, now I won't say this with fear and trembling, not all, because I still find some very wonderful gentlemen in the black uniform, but some of the unscrupulous ones deviate. They are deviants. You see them mixed with these miscreants. They go about even with liquid distilleries, and we must not look at the fact that NDLA, in collaboration with the police and other security agencies, should beam their satellite on all these distilleries as well, because it's not only the powdery substance now, the cocaines and the hemps of this world. All these local sachet, the Colorado, the Loud, and what have you, they have leeway into our markets. They feel everywhere, so they still have to do something there. So for those that are errant among the police, I think it's incumbent on the bigger authority among the police now to bring them to justice. So this is our common knowledge. They are everywhere. So there is no pretending that nobody knows. The CP said it right, how that, yes, the police over time, they ensure that they make it public that we burnt this, we destroyed that. But it's not a battle that ends even in a year, not even a decade, not over a year. It's an ongoing, perpetual, battle against all these life-destroying, destiny-wrenching substances. Because you can imagine, this song comes to mind readily. I can't remember the musician now, but I know I can be what I want to be.
That's
how
nice.
Nas, thank you. I know you are vast in music. How that a particular girl that had potential, beautiful, was on the way to the top, had everything, but her life was cut short because she got involved with these dirty substances. And these are served as a metaphor for so many lives being destroyed. You look at some of them and you pity. NDLEA essentially has their jurisdiction at the airports, seaports, and borders. But can they tackle it all alone? They can't. What they have before them is so gigantic that they need all other agencies to work in collaboration. The custom officers, the police, even locals, people, well-meaning people, should work in tandem with them to get rid, if not totally get rid, but at least minimize the effect of this thing. Ensure that Nigeria becomes sane again, because insanity looms with these substances recklessly, being bandied around.
CP, now we are talking billions of naira in drugs now.
Yes.
And with the Marwa-led NDLEA impounding, these drugs, tramadol, tramaking, and cocaine, and the rest of them, would you say that Nigeria is winning the war against those that traffic in drugs?
Well, for now, we'll give kudos to them and encourage them to do more. It's too premature to assess or give them 100%. because the fight is still bigger. They have a lot of fights ahead to do. Just like you raised the issue of the kingpins earlier. Those kingpins isolate themselves like mafians in such a way that you don't even know them. And they live with us, they mingle with us, they have other fronts they use as their main businesses. While behind the scene, they are involved in these illicit drug dealings. And even the intermediaries who work for them don't even know the actual kingpins behind those, the financing and the marketing of those hard drugs. They put a wedge in such a way that you hardly connect.
Can fish them out.
Yes, to fish them out. And that is why the trading is still ongoing in different forms. If you bust them here, before you know it, it will rear its head on the other side. And
so we are not exactly winning the war.
We are just doing our best, and we should continue to cooperate with them, encourage them, collaborate with them, especially by way of giving them intelligence, credible intelligence. Once you get the information, pass it on as fast as possible so that they can work on it.
All right.
And see if we make more success of that.
Moses, now we know that these things, it's either they are going out of the country or they're coming into the country. So that means our borders and airports are vital points. And we just saw not too long ago, Seychelles, the country, decided that they will ban everything, every passport that relates to Nigeria. And that's because there were allegations that Nigerians were peddling drugs in large quantity in those in the country, and that's a country that has population that is barely, that's not even up to what we have in Lagos. And there was this cry on social media that look, Nigerians want to destroy their population with drugs, so they have placed a ban on the passports, the Nigerian passport. All right. What do you make of the fact that these drugs find their way into the country? How many do we get to see on the borders that are apprehended? How come they enter and then we nab them on the streets? Or how come they go out and we have to hear from countries like the Seychelles that they have entered their space as well?
Well, let me just take a cue from what CP just said. The fact that busting of drugs and crime and all related issues readily comes to mind the Al Pacino elusiveness. It was almost invisible until, of course, he had his day in court. Al Pacino was that man then in Chicago that had many connections. You think you have destroyed one point, the next 10, there are other points, 10 points that have not even been touched, and it was such a war for America. But we're able to minimize to a point, which I think we can take cue from them, to learn from them and possibly bust this thing, bring it to a respectable minimal level. For your question now, with respect to how drugs come in and out, I know that in the past, in the 80s and in the 90s, Nigeria, our water route especially, was just of the Atlantic now, was just a passing route from the South Americans, Colombia, Peru, where drug dealing is so high. They only pass through Nigeria. But I learned in recent times that Nigeria has become like a bus stop for them now. They don't even pass through Nigeria, as in through our waters, to whatever they take their drugs to. But they now stop by, and not thanks to some people, some Nigerians, and some people generally that are interested. Oh, what can you, how they thought over time, how can such a great way of making money just pass through our backyard? Henceforth, even stop here, make this a stopping route as well. And that is why we've had this influx. That's why we have this danger that is so monstrous that we can't possibly curtail easily. But we can if we do what we should do. Nigeria is no longer just that passing route for them anymore. It's actually now one of their selling points. So it's so easy for them to come in. That's why those that man the borders, especially via the sea, they have a lot to do. Because sometimes you may run out after the symptom when you actually need the root cause. So if the root cause is tackled, effectively tackled, Then this petty thing on the road, because I call it petty, is really because when you compare what obtains, how these drugs come in very massive manner. If you compare them to what obtains on our streets, in our parks, in our garages, they are small. So if you can just ensure that where they actually make their entrance to the country is well secured, the borders, whether land and especially water, because the Atlantic is a route for these drugs to be peddled all over the world. If this is well checked, I think Nigeria will get some results and our future will be safe, really.
All right, so is that your final thoughts on it?
Well, as I've said, let's give NDLEA the best of cooperation. It doesn't lie with them alone, because I've always posited, a society is not about the government alone. Also the government and the governed. Well, many Nigerians, opinion leaders who are concerned about the present and the future should ensure that even from their very neighborhood, wherever they sniff anything, they have any information, please do the due diligence. Go and report, make reports, and let's fight this together, and we shall win the battle.
All right. Thank you very much, Moses Orisha-Jalami Adebayo. CP,
Yes.
let's get your final thoughts on this.
Yes, like Adebayo said, this is supposed to be a collective responsibility. For us to leave it for government agencies alone, that means we have not really started. Because the thing is that the agencies, they are not spirits, they are human like us. And if you look at the vast waterfront, like you mentioned, the Atlantic Ocean, stretching from Badagry to Calabar, is more than 800 miles. Call it about 1,300 to 1,400 kilometers stretch of Atlantic Ocean. So even if you put the mechanism to control the thing coming in through Tinkan Island or Apapa Wharf, they have Onne, they have Calabar, they have Oron, they have Port Harcourt, they have Warri, they have Cocoa. So there are so many points they can bring in these things where you don't even have the machines to detect the drugs coming in. What about the land border? That is very porous. If you get to the land border, it's only the major ones we know, Seme, Idiroko, Shaki and all that. There are other routes, illegal routes, that are not even manned. They can bring them in. They can ship the thing through Cotonou or Port Novo, and by via land, they will pass through those illegal routes. So it's a gigantum, problem.
Okay. Before we go, we still have a few minutes. So, what has made Nigeria, Alaska and then Alaska, what has made Nigeria a market for such drugs like tramadol and the rest of them?
What should naturally be a blessing is population, but sometimes it becomes a burden. Americans will always gloat that bring it into our market and your product equal will blow. Any country that has massive population like we have, we're about top 10 in the world, anything done in that country is most likely going to blow. China is what China is today because of their population, simply put. They are the manufacturing hub of the world because they maximize their population. And sometimes, unfortunately though, rather than maximize our population for virtues, we rather amplify vices using the same population. So our population, which should be a burden, somehow has been made there should be a blessing, made a burden. And the earlier we reorientate our minds that we can actually use this population to better Nigeria, make virtues our way of life, the earlier we do that, the better.
The better for us. CP?
The same thing he has just said. Okay. Population that is supposed to be a blessing has become a burden, sort of. Because if you look at the population of Nigeria, it constitutes 25% of the total population of Africa. So you can now imagine.
And we have a large population of the youth as well.
Yes. The youth, when you look at the thing in terms of statistics vis-a-vis the population, the youth constitutes more than 50-60% of the total population of Nigeria. So we need prayers, one. We need to continue to orientate and reorientate the youth that once they go into drug, they have absolutely no future. So the emphasis should be that. It should be taken down from primary school levels to secondary to tertiary institutions That's the way forward.
All right, thank you very much, CP Chooks and Moses Richard Jolomi Adebayo. Well, that's the show for today. I must say a very big thank you to my guests for coming into the studio. A very big thank you to you as well. And on behalf of the crew, I say have a beautiful day. I'm Moses Humphrey. Bye for now.